After opening the season with a 36-13 win over Liberty and the humiliating 45-24 defeat to the University of Tennessee in the circus that was the battle at Bristol, Saturday's game against Boston College is Virginia Tech's true normal football game, if you will, as the Hokies are set to take on Boston College, a program that is in the midst of a rebuild on one hand, but on the other, they gave Georgia Tech almost all the Yellow Jackets could handle when the two teams played in Dublin, duking it out to what was eventually a 17-14 win for Georgia Tech. And I'm sure coming back from Dublin, that was a very long plane ride back. But heading back into Lane Stadium, it's important to take a look back at Virginia Tech's record against Power 5 conference teams at Lane Stadium. And the results kind of help explain why the man who built Virginia Tech football into the program that it is today was put under such heavy pressure to retire with Frank Beamer stepping down at the end of last season. The record for the Hokies in the 12 games that they've played against Power 5 teams since October 26th of 2015 is 2-10, 2 wins and 10 losses for one of the best atmospheres in college football and a program that is so used to having Lane Stadium as a fortress. This is simply unacceptable. I mean, including 2 losses to Duke, who, to be fair, have emerged as such a strong team under David Cutcliffe. This cannot continue. Justin Fuente knows that, and Saturday's showdown is the perfect time to really change that trend. Now, of course, many people are going to be talking about Boston College's offensive coordinator, Scott Loeffler. After all, he was the Hokies offensive coordinator last year, and he had maddeningly poor results at times. Yes, it was difficult for him to work with Logan Thomas under such a short window, and of course Michael Brewer's injuries, but his play calling was just far too predictable. I'm actually surprised to see that he was able to get a Power 5 coordinator role so soon after his debacle at Virginia Tech, though to be fair, his resume is very strong, and he is coaching a very experienced quarterback with Patrick Towles, who is a transfer from Kentucky, whose career numbers include a 56.4 completion percentage, 26 touchdowns, and 26 interceptions, who can run as well. He has ran the ball 248 times for 446 yards and has 12 rushing touchdowns to his name. So, the Eagles are also going to look to run the ball quite a bit. John Hilliman has had 39 carries for 156 yards, averaging 4 yards a carry with 2 touchdowns. And, so he could definitely give the Virginia Tech defense some issues. But I don't worry too much about Boston College's offense. After all, we're talking about an Eagles team that went winless in the ACC last season. Of course, Virginia Tech deserves to be favorites in this game. But the Boston College defense presents problems, particularly in the linebacking corps, because they have some very strong linebackers. Matt Milano was an honorable mention All-American last year. He is a terrific playmaker. He had 17.5 tackles for loss and 6.5 sacks a year ago. And through the first 2 games of this season, he's had 14 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. But the leading tackler thus far is actually a junior named Ty Schwab, who is in his first year as a starter, but leads the Eagles thus far with 16 tackles this season. So the Virginia Tech offensive line should have its hands full. But more than anything, the onus falls on the Hokie offense to cut down the fumbles. 9 fumbles in 2 games. 9 fumbles lost, I should say. 9 fumbles lost. Simply unacceptable. And, that's been the main focus of this week in practice, as Justin Fuente has said, and rightfully so. Of course, Hokie fans are going to hope for a big week out of Trayvon McMillan. So far this season, he has a great yards per carry, 6.1 yards per carry, 166 yards rushing on 27 totes, and a touchdown to his name. Sam Rogers has 11 carries so far for 43 yards and has a receiving touchdown. So, as I've mentioned before, no problem with seeing Rogers on the ball here and there. It's tough to incorporate a player like Rogers into this spread offense because he is not a natural tailback. But, he is the Swiss Army knife. He can fulfill so many roles, but at the end of the day, Trayvon McMillan needs to be seeing the majority of the carries, and after his spectacular, incredible touchdown run against Tennessee last week, I think Fuente understands where the real talent is in the backfield. Although, we also can't forget about Shai McKenzie. He figures to play a part in the running equation as well. Now, Isaiah Ford has enjoyed the type of start you would expect from him to open the season, although perhaps maybe a little bit better. I mean, of course, he had that phenomenal game against Liberty. So far, he has 168 yards receiving, averaging 10.5 yards per catch. I think that'll go up, and up on Saturday, and he has his touchdown. And, Bucky Hodges only has 55 yards receiving, but he has 2 touchdowns to his name. I would really like to see Gerard Evans step in, really try to get Bucky more involved. I mean, he is such a lethal weapon out there, really targeting him, focusing on him, giving him, routes to run where he can, get favorable matchups against this tough Boston College defense will be crucial. And I do look for Evans to have a big game in this one. He is going to want to make a very strong debut for the Hokies in his first go-around in the ACC. And this is kind of unusual to see the Hokies in their 3rd game of the season already playing an ACC foe. It is certainly beneficial that the Hokies get to open the ACC slate with a home game. So with that, it's time to look a little bit more at the Hokie defense to say, what do they need to do? Well, they need strong corner play. If they're going to shut down Boston College, yes, the running game can present problems, but I'm going to be hopeful that Adonis Alexander, Greg Stroman, and Brandon Faison all come ready to go. It's not like they played all that bad last week against Tennessee. Let's not forget that the Hokies outgained Tennessee by 7 yards last week. But, the X factor, I think, for the Hokie defense right now is Mook Reynolds. He actually had a kind of an unsung hero type performance against Tennessee, although there aren't really heroes in a defeat. But Reynolds will certainly be a player to watch. Tim Settle, really young guy, the young buck out there, is continuing to draw a lot of offensive line attention, as is Ken Eckenham. So, prediction time. I'm going to take the Hokies to win, not win big, because they're still finding their identity, as is Boston College under head coach Steve Addazio. 2 teams that are really trying to figure it out. So I will take Virginia Tech in this one, 20-10.